Countless eyes were on him. This is getting more and more exciting, Fang Yuan thought with a laugh. Under the gaze of the crowd, he crossed the river and reached the opposite bank. He felt a layer of pressure on him. This pressure came from the spiritual spring deep within the sea of flowers. The spiritual spring produced primeval qi, and because the qi was so rich here, it caused this pressure. But very quickly, small lights emerged from the flowers beneath Fang Yuan's feet. These points of light enveloped his entire body before finally entering him. These are the Hope Gu, Fang Yuan mused. The person in charge hadn't told them, but he knew very well. Each point of light is a Gu, known as the Hope Gu. The legend of the Hope Gu. One of the oldest legends speaks of the Hope Gu. In the legend, when the world had just been formed, it was a wild and desolate land. Among the savage beasts that roamed the earth, the first man, known as Ren Zhu, appeared. He ate raw meat and drank blood, living a difficult life. In particular, there was a group of wild beasts called the Aprietos. These beasts loved the taste of Ren Zhu and craved to eat him. Ren Zhu didn't have a body as solid as mountain rock, nor did he have the sharp teeth and claws of a wild beast. How could he fight the Aprietos? His food source was unstable, and he had to hide all day. He was at the bottom of nature's food chain and could barely survive. At that moment, 3 Gu came to him and said, "As long as you use your life for us, we will help you get through this difficulty." Ren Zhu had nowhere to go, so he could only agree to the 3 Gu. He first gave his youth to the largest of the 3 Gu. That Gu then granted him strength. With strength, Ren Zhu's life began to change. He started to have a stable food source and was able to protect himself. He fought bravely and mercilessly, defeating many Aprietos. But soon he suffered and finally understood that strength wasn't everything. It needed to be healed and cultivated, not spent freely. Not to mention, when facing the entire group of Aprietos, his strength alone was too small. Ren Zhu reflected bitterly on this lesson and decided to give his mature years to the most beautiful of the 3 Gu. And so, the second Gu gave him wisdom. With wisdom, Ren Zhu was able to learn to think and reflect. He began to accumulate experience and discovered that often, when he used wisdom, it was more effective than using strength. By relying on wisdom and strength, he was able to conquer all the goals he couldn't reach before and killed many Aprietos. He ate the meat of the Aprietos and drank their blood, surviving with tenacity. But good things don't last. Ren Zhu was old and would only get older. This was because he had given away his youth and mature years to keep the Gu of strength and the Gu of wisdom. When a man is old, his muscles deteriorate and his brain slows down. "Human, what else can you give us? There's nothing left for you to provide us," said the Gu of strength and the Gu of wisdom when they realized this. They left him. Without wisdom or strength, Ren Zhu was again surrounded by the Aprietos. He was old and couldn't run, his teeth had fallen out, and he couldn't even chew wild fruits and plants. As he fell weakly to the ground, surrounded by Aprietos, his heart was filled with despair. It was at this moment that the 3rd Gu said to him, "Human, take me. I will help you escape the Aprietos." Ren Zhu replied tearfully, "Gu, I have nothing left. Look, the Gu of strength and the Gu of wisdom have abandoned me. All I have left is my old age. Even if it's not worth my youth and mature years, if I give you my old age, my life will end immediately. Even though I'm surrounded by Aprietos right now, I won't die immediately. I want to live a little longer, even if it's just a second more. So you should leave. I have nothing more to give you." But the Gu said, "Among the 3, I have the smallest needs. Human, if you just give me your heart, that will be enough." "Then I will give you my heart," Ren Zhu said. "But, Gu, what can you give me in return? In this situation, even if the Gu of strength and the Gu of wisdom returned to my side, it wouldn't change anything." Compared to the Gu of strength, this Gu seemed fragile and was just a tiny ball of light. Compared to the Gu of wisdom, this one could only emit a faint white light, not beautiful in any way. But when Ren Zhu gave it his heart, this Gu suddenly emitted an infinite light. In this light, the Aprietos cried out in horror. "It's the Gu of hope. Withdraw. We, the Aprietos, fear hope more than anything. The Aprietos suddenly retreated. Renzu was speechless, and from that day on, whenever he faced a predicament, he gave his heart to hope. At that moment, the hope Gu converged into a stream of light and had already entered Fang Yuan's body. Due to the outside pressure, they quickly gathered in his abdomen and spontaneously grouped together 3 inches below his navel. Fang Yuan suddenly felt the pressure decrease. He began to walk forward. With every step he took, the hope Gu flew from the sea of flowers and entered his body, joining the ball of light. The ball of light grew brighter and brighter, but the person in charge on the opposite riverbank frowned. This number of hope Gu is less than expected. Many elders watching Fang Yuan in the darkness thought this upon seeing the scene. The clan leader also frowned. This was certainly not the sign of a grade A talent. Fang Yuan withstood the pressure, continuing to walk forward. Under 10 steps, it means there's no cultivation talent. 10 to 20 steps is a grade D talent. 20 to 30 steps would be a grade C talent. 30 to 40 steps is a grade B talent. And 40 to 50 steps would mean a grade A talent. So far, I've walked 23 steps. 24, 25, 26, 27. Fang Yuan counted in his heart. When he took the 27th step, he could hear a bang, and between his 2 kidneys, the ball of light reached its limit and suddenly exploded. This burst of energy only happened inside his body. People outside couldn't see it. Only Fang Yuan could feel a world-shaking reaction at that moment. Instantly, the fine hairs on his body stood up, his pores shut tight, and his mind stretched to a tense limit. Soon after, his mind went blank. His entire body became soft as if he had fallen into some clouds. His heart relaxed, his fine hairs flattened, and his pores reopened. In a short while, his entire body was sweating. The whole process felt long, but it actually happened in a very short time. The feeling went away as fast as it came. Fang Yuan was blank for a short moment before he came back to his senses. He secretly focused his attention on his body and discovered that below his navel and between his 2 kidneys, an aperture had formed out of thin air. The awakening ceremony was a success. It was the hope of immortality.